Welcome to DDM 4422 Pro Tools 101. In our last video, we started exploring the Pro Tools user interface with the Pro Tools menu structure. In this video, we shall expand on that by exploring more elements of the user interface, starting with all of the important windows that you will work with. We shall also go over some of the common edit tools and edit modes in Pro Tools. And lastly, we'll take a look at all of the timescales and rulers that Pro Tools has to offer. Let's start with the windows. Pro Tools has a host of windows you can use to perform a variety of tasks and functions. The three primary windows that you will need to be familiar with to begin working in Pro Tools are the Transport window, the Edit window, and the Mix window. All windows can be opened and closed via this window menu. So if we close our Transport window, we can reopen it by selecting it from here. But let's keep that closed for now. The Edit window is perhaps the one that gets used the most though. It provides a timeline display of audio, MIDI data, video, and mixer automation for recording, editing, and arranging tracks. It is the main window that you will use to work directly with your content. Every track in the Edit window has all of the standard controls such as Record Enable, Solo, and Mute buttons. This section is called the Edit window toolbar, and it includes the Edit mode buttons, the Edit tools, and the main counter among other optional elements. Right under the toolbar is the timeline display or the rulers. The rulers are horizontal displays that provide measurement indicators to help you identify specific locations in your session's timeline. Some commonly used rulers include the following: bars and beats, which is a ruler that's useful for music editors, composers, and musicians; minutes and seconds, a ruler that is useful in radio or for those who need to measure in absolute time; timecode, a ruler that is used primarily for video and film post-production; tempo, a ruler that allows you to specify changes in tempo within your session; meter, a ruler that allows you to specify meter changes within your session; and markers, a ruler that allows you to create markers to identify and recall important track locations and view settings within the session. You can display or hide any combination of these rulers at any time, and we'll be looking at them in more detail soon, don't worry. Then we have the Edit window side columns. These columns provide additional view and display options for your session data. Along the left side is a vertical column that contains the track list and the group list. The track list is at the top of the left column and shows a list of all the tracks in your session. Directly beneath the track list is the group list, where track groups are displayed. Along the right side is a column that contains the clip list. The clip list shows a list of all the audio and MIDI files and file segments, also known as clips, that are currently available in the session. On systems running the Pro Tools Ultimate software, the clip list will also display video files and clips. And the main center area is where we can see all of our tracks. This is called the Tracks Display area. Pro Tools lets you customize the way your Edit window looks to accommodate your needs at any given point in your project. Like to customize the Edit window toolbar, click on the pop-up menu in the upper right corner of the window. This menu lets you show or hide various controls and displays in the toolbar. You could also bring this menu up by just right-clicking on the toolbar's background and select or deselect an item from the menu to change the appearance. Like if you'd like to hide the transport controls, you can just deselect it from this menu and it gets hidden. To bring them back, just reselect it and there they are. You can even move any of the toolbar controls and rearrange them according to your preference. To move a set of controls, Command-click using a Mac or Control-click using Windows on a non-active part of the toolbar near the controls you wish to move and drag the set to a new area of the toolbar. For example, if you prefer the edit modes to be located next to the edit tools, simply Control-click on Windows or Command-click on a Mac and drag them to that location. Just make sure you're clicking on an area of this control where there is no button. You can show and hide the left and the right side columns independently or adjust their display widths as needed. Customizing the side columns lets you control the amount of area that is available for your track display in the edit window. To hide the left side column, click on the arrow icon located in the bottom corner next to the column itself. To bring it back, we click on the same icon, whose direction, if you would have noticed, has changed now to point to the other side, and the column will slide into view. Similarly, to hide the right column, click on the arrow icon located in the bottom corner next to the column itself. And to bring it back, click on the same icon and the column will slide back into view. If you wish to just adjust the width of the column instead, move your mouse over to the column separator where the cursor changes into a double-headed arrow. Then, just click and drag to adjust its position as needed. This can be performed on both side columns. So this has been the edit window. The next window that you will use the most when working in Pro Tools is called the mix window. And since it's a window that you wish to see, you can get to it from your window menu, like this. The mix window provides a mixer-like environment for recording and mixing audio. All of the tracks in our session appear as mixer strips or channel strips, as they are more popularly known as. Each track displayed in the mix window has controls for inserts, sends, input and output assignments, automation mode selection, panning, and volume. The channel strips also provide buttons for enabling recording and toggling solo and mute on and off. The top portion of each channel strip in the mix window provides controls for routing signals for the track. These controls include insert selectors, send selectors, input selectors, and output selectors. Insert selectors can be used to add real-time effects processing to a track using plugins. Like if I wanted to add an EQ plugin to this track, I could click on one of the available slots, navigate to the plugin I wanted, and select it to be inserted. Now all the audio on this track would go through this plugin when I hit play. To take the plugin out, I just click on the dot before its name and select No Insert. And it's gone. Send selectors can be used to route a track's signal to an available bus path or output path. So if you wanted to send a copy of this track's audio to another location inside or outside Pro Tools, you can assign that path from here. The input and output selectors are used to route input and output signals from your audio interface for recording or playback. So this is where you can tell Pro Tools where this track should get its signal from and where the output of this track should go to. Under this I/O section is a series of controls that are used to set record and playback options. These include pan controls, the track record enable, solo and mute buttons, and the volume fader for each track. The pan controls can be used to position the output of a track within a stereo field, so you can move the sound left or right. The record enable, solo, and mute buttons can be used to activate and deactivate each of these functions for the track during record and playback operations. The volume fader can be used to adjust the playback or monitoring level of a track. This is what controls the output volume of the sound that is coming from the track. It's important to note that the volume fader in the mix window does not impact the input level of the signal being recorded, which means when you're recording and you feel the signal is too less or too much, changing this fader will not change anything. The input signal level must be set appropriately at the source. So if you're using an interface, the mic pre section of your interface would have a gain knob. That is what you will need to adjust to change the level of the signal that is going in. The volume fader only controls the output of the track. The mix window also includes side columns on either side. And as was possible with the edit window, you can hide and show these side columns in the exact same way. There's an easy way to switch back and forth between your mix window and your edit window. On a Mac, you can use the Command and Equal key, whilst on Windows you can use the Control and Equal key. This shortcut toggles between the two windows, so if you're in your mix window, it will take you to your edit window, and if you're in your edit window, it will take you to your mix window, like this. Of course, you could also use the window menu to go back and forth if you'd like. The third most used window in Pro Tools is called the transport window. It's this small floating window that provides buttons for various transport functions that are similar to the controls on a CD or a DVD player. You can expand this to view more elements by using the transport window pop-up menu. Like if we wish to see our counters, we can just enable it from here. Or another way to change what we see within this window would be to use the View menu. If you click on View and then go over to Transport, you will see the same choices as you see in the pop-up menu on the transport window itself. So if you wish to display the MIDI controls on the transport, you can just select them from here. The counters provide information for navigating and editing via a main location indicator and a sub-location indicator. The main and sub-location indicators can be set for different timescale formats, such as samples, bars and beats, or minutes and seconds. The main location indicator in the transport window provides a convenient way to navigate to a specific time. Like if you wish to jump to the 10th second in your session, click on the main location indicator, type in 10 in the seconds position, and then just press enter. And the timeline insertion point will move to the 10th second. The location indicators in the transport window mirror the main and the sub counters at the top of the edit window in normal operation. The transport window also includes a MIDI control section, providing options for playing back your session and recording MIDI data. The MIDI controls lets you set options for triggering MIDI recording, playing metronome clicks, overdubbing MIDI, using a tempo map, and setting the tempo and meter for your session. The wait for note is a really cool feature of Pro Tools. When selected, recording does not begin until a MIDI event is received, which means Pro Tools will only start recording when you press a key on your MIDI keyboard. This way, you can be sure that your first MIDI event gets recorded precisely at the beginning of the bar. When the metronome button is selected, a metronome will sound during playback and recording as specified by the settings in your click count-off options. We'll learn more about the various click options in one of our upcoming classes. The third button here is called MIDI Merge. When selected, all of your recorded MIDI data will be merged with the existing MIDI data on the track. When deselected, recorded MIDI data will replace existing data on the track. This last button is the Tempo Ruler Enable button, also known as the conductor. When enabled, Pro Tools will follow the tempo changes defined in the tempo ruler. When turned off, Pro Tools switches to manual tempo mode and ignores any of the tempo changes that you may have in your song. In manual tempo mode, you can set the tempo for your session by typing a value directly in this tempo field here. Just above the tempo field is the meter display. This display shows you the session's current meter. This too can be changed by just double-clicking this value and editing the meter to a value of your choice. And lastly, we have the count-off controls. When this count-off is enabled, that is, when it's green, Pro Tools will give you a count-off of a specified number of bars before your playback or recording begins. The number of bars used for count-off is indicated in this count-off field just beside it. These MIDI controls and the transport itself can be accessed from the Edit window toolbar as well. Like if I wish to view my MIDI controls in my Edit window, I can just go up to my Edit window toolbar pop-up menu and enable the MIDI controls there. So if you're working on a small screen and do not want to waste any space viewing the transport window, you don't have to. You can hide it entirely and bring it back whenever you need from the window menu in Pro Tools. Although the primary edit window works well for most general editing operations, Pro Tools provides two additional types of editor windows focused on specific editing and presentation tasks. These are the MIDI editor window and the score editor window. The MIDI editor window can be used for detailed MIDI composition and editing tasks. It can show MIDI data and automation data for your aux, instrument, and MIDI tracks. You can open several separate MIDI editor windows simultaneously, each providing a different view of the MIDI data in your Pro Tools session. The MIDI editor window lets you edit MIDI data for one or more MIDI and/or instrument tracks. When displaying multiple tracks, the MIDI editor window superimposes the notes from each of the tracks in the MIDI notes pane. Then there's the score editor window, which lets you view, edit, arrange, and print MIDI data from your session as music notation. The score editor transcribes MIDI notes in real time and provides tools for navigating and editing in notation view, which means not only can you view your MIDI data as notation in this window, but if you like, you can even edit your MIDI data directly from here. You can add details to your score by double-clicking on the title shown here and add the information, like the title of a song, the composer, etc. And once done, print directly from Pro Tools. All this without the need for any additional notation software. So these are the 5 primary windows that you will come across while using Pro Tools: the Mix window, the Edit window, the MIDI editor window, the Score editor window, and the Transport window. Just a reminder, since these are windows, you can choose to show or hide any of them from your window menu on top. And if you wanted to change what you are seeing within any of these windows, you should head to the View menu instead. The Pro Tools user interface provides tooltips in all main windows to help you identify tools, selectors, and functions in the software. So when you place your mouse cursor for a few seconds over an icon or tool, Pro Tools will display the full name of the item or its function. This helps you know exactly what you're about to select or click. If you find it distracting, you can turn it off. You can go to your preferences from the Setup menu and under the Display tab, toggle the tooltips on or off. I usually leave it on because it also helps in showing me the track's full names, which can sometimes get truncated if you're working on a small screen. But it's a personal choice, so if you find it distracting, feel free to turn it off. Now let's talk about the various edit tools that Pro Tools has to offer. The edit tools, located in the toolbar area at the top of the edit window, provide access to Pro Tools' powerful audio and MIDI editing functions. The edit tools include the Zoomer tool, the Trim tool, the Selector tool, the grabber tool, the scrubber tool, the pencil tool, and a special 3-in-1 tool called the Smart tool. The zoomer tool can be used to zoom into and out of a particular area within a track. Zooming in is often helpful when you need to examine a clip or waveform closely. When enabled, click on the desired point within the track onto which you want to zoom in. Each click zooms all tracks in by one level, with the edit window centered on the zoom point, meaning the place you click will come to the center of the screen. To zoom in on a particular area in the edit window, click and drag with the zoomer tool over the area you want to view. As you drag, a gray box will appear indicating the range on which you will be zooming. Release the mouse to fill the window with the selected portion of the waveform. To zoom out, hold the Option key if you're on a Mac or the Alt key if you're on Windows while clicking with the zoomer tool. If you look carefully at your mouse cursor, the icon changes the minute you press the Option key, from a magnifying glass showing the plus sign to a magnifying glass showing the minus sign. The Option key modifier or Alt key modifier provides several standard functions in Pro Tools. Amongst these is the reverse operation function. If we intend to perform the opposite action in some of our edit tools, holding the Option key or Alt key would enable us to do so. If you wish to get a full track view that fills the edit window with the longest visible track in the session, you can just double-click on the zoomer tool and it will immediately zoom out to fit the longest track you have in your session into view. The zoomer tool offers two modes actually. What we have seen till now is what we call the normal zoom mode. The second one is the single zoom mode, and you can activate that by keeping the zoomer icon pressed and selecting this mode. In the single zoom mode, Pro Tools will automatically reselect the edit tool that you were using after zooming, which means if you were using the trim tool and then selected the single zoom mode, once you finish zooming, it will automatically select the trim tool again, like this. To go back to the normal zoom mode, keep your mouse clicked on the zoomer tool and select normal zoom from the pop-up menu. The trim tool is what you use to trim excess audio, MIDI or video content from the start or end of a clip. This trim is non-destructive, which means the original audio or video files are actually unchanged. The tool allows you to quickly crop a clip or adjust the clip's boundaries to hide or expose underlying material. The Selector tool is used for two things. One, to select an area in a track for playback or editing, and two, to position the playback cursor at the point where you want playback to begin. To position the playback cursor at a point where you want playback to begin, just click anywhere on that track and Pro Tools will begin playing back from that position. To select an area for playback or editing, click and drag with the Selector tool across any area on the tracks. Your selection can be across multiple tracks too if needed. If the selection you want to make is for a really large region, you can just click on the position you want your selection to start, then scroll to the area where you see the endpoint, and then shift-click at the desired endpoint to complete the selection. The grabber tool is used to select an entire clip with a single mouse click, to move clips along the timeline within their current tracks, and to move clips between tracks. To select a clip, you can click anywhere on the clip in the edit window using the grabber tool. To move it along the timeline, click anywhere on the clip and drag it to the left or right. The scrubber tool is used to scrub slowly across audio tracks in the edit window to find a particular moment or audio event. Scrubbing originated in tape editing as a process of rocking the tape back and forth past the playhead to locate a precise position, usually for the sake of performing an edit, or a splice as it was called back then. By scrubbing back and forth over an audio waveform in Pro Tools, you can listen closely and zero in on an exact edit point. To scrub your audio or MIDI in Pro Tools, click on a track in the edit window with the scrubber tool and drag left or right to begin playing back at that point. Dragging the scrubber tool between two adjacent audio tracks allows you to scrub these two tracks together. Your playback speed and direction will depend on your mouse movement. Or if you wish to just have fun, pretending to be a DJ, you can go crazy. Then we have the pencil tool, which is actually a dangerous tool to play with, because whatever you do with this tool is destructive, which means the change is permanent. The pencil tool can be used to destructively redraw waveform data. This feature is most commonly used to repair a pop or click in an audio file. This tool becomes active only when the edit window is zoomed in quite a bit. So if you're unable to use it, it's probably because you need to zoom in even more to be able to see the actual waveform more closely. The pencil tool is also useful for creating and editing MIDI data. So if you have a MIDI or an instrument track, by using the pencil tool, you could just go in and start plotting notes. When doing this, you can use the Option key or Alt key to reverse the pencil tool, which means it becomes an eraser, and you can erase your MIDI notes. And lastly, the Smart tool. The Trim, Selector and Grabber tools are the most used tools when editing your audio. And since we need to switch between them a lot, Pro Tools created a special tool that combines their functions. This is called the Smart tool, and it can be activated by clicking on the bridge area above and surrounding the three tools themselves. You'll know the Smart tool is active because all the three Trim, Selector and Grabber tools are all selected together. It's called the Smart tool because it allows you to perform the functions of all these three tools without needing to constantly change your selection. And the action performed is determined by the position of your cursor on the clip being edited, which means where you click on a clip using your mouse will decide which tool is being used. So if you wanted to trim the clip, all you need to do is take your mouse to the start or end of the clip, and you'll see that your cursor reflects the edit tool automatically. So here I'm trimming the start and end of clip A. To use the Selector tool to select your audio, position the cursor on the top half of your clip and you'll see that your cursor reflects the edit tool automatically. So with your mouse on the top half of the clip, just click and drag to make a selection. And to use the Grabber tool to select the clip, position the cursor on the bottom half of your clip and you'll see that your cursor reflects the edit tool. So if you move your mouse down to the lower half of the clip, you can select the entire clip and move it around. So it's all about the position of your mouse. Move your mouse to the ends and you'll get the trim tool. Move it somewhere in the top half of the clip and you get the selector. And anywhere on the bottom half gives you the grabber tool. This speeds up your editing capabilities quite a bit in Pro Tools, which is why the Smart tool is perhaps the tool that every audio engineer is always in. But that's not the only reason. The Smart tool is also smart because it actually performs more than what meets the eye. Keep an eye on the cursor now. Moving it to the left edge of the clip enables the trim tool. But if you move it up to the left corner of the clip, the cursor reveals a new tool. This is your fade tool. So if you wanted to have a fade in on this clip, all you need to do is click and drag in your fade. Similarly, if this is performed on the other end, that is, if you take your cursor to the right edge, you'll get your trim tool. But if you take it up to the right corner, you'll get the fade icon again. So just click and drag to get your fade out on the clip. So that's how you get your fade ins and fade outs. And here's another neat trick. If you have two clips side by side, sure, taking your mouse to the edges would give you the trim tool and moving to the top corners would give you the fade out and fade in tool. But if you bring it down to the bottom corners where the two clips meet, you get yet another tool, the crossfade tool. And you create your crossfade by simply clicking and dragging out from the center of the two clips. As simple as that. This is why the Smart tool is the most preferred tool to be in. Not only can you perform the functions of your trim, selector and grabber tools, but you can create your fade-ins, fade-outs and crossfades as well. It's small things like this that make Pro Tools such a powerful editor. There's so much that you can do without having to continuously change your tools. So these have been the basic edit tools in Pro Tools. Now let's take a look at the edit modes. An edit mode is what affects the movement and placement of clips on your tracks. The placement of your audio clips, video clips, MIDI clips, and even your MIDI notes are determined by which edit mode is currently active. It also affects how edit commands and your edit tools work. Pro Tools has 4 edit modes: Shuffle, Spot, Grid, and Slip. You can select an edit mode by clicking on the Modes button on the left side of the toolbar area in your edit window. Let's start with the Shuffle mode. In Shuffle mode, clip movement is constrained by other clips, and any changes you make affect the placement of subsequent clips on the track. When you move a clip in Shuffle mode, it will always snap to the previous or the next clip on the track. Like, if you try to move clip C, you will see that Pro Tools is indicating that it will place it at the end of clip B. You don't even need to drag it completely. You can just leave your mouse and Pro Tools will snap it for you. Even if you drag a new clip from the clip list onto the track, you will see that Pro Tools will offer you only one choice in placing that clip, and that will be at the end of clip C. Additionally, when you perform an edit, for example, if you delete a clip, all clips to the right will slide along the timeline to close the gap. So if we delete clip C from this track, clip D will be moved up and will attach itself to the end of clip B, like this. The Shuffle mode is a convenient way to make clips line up next to each other without overlapping or leaving silence between them. It's the perfect mode to be in when you're working with loops. Next, we have the Slip mode. In Slip mode, you can move, trim, cut or paste clips freely within a track without affecting the placements of other clips on the track. You can place a clip anywhere on the track, leaving space between it and other clips if desired. It's also possible to move a clip so that it overlaps or completely covers another clip. Use the slip mode when you want to select and edit media without restrictions to placement in time. In spot mode, you can move or place clips at precise locations by specifying the destination location in a dialog box. As in slip mode, edit operations do not affect the placement of other clips on the track. When spot mode is enabled, Pro Tools prompts you with a dialog box when working with clips, allowing you to specify exactly where you want the clip to start or end. So if you wanted this clip to start at 1 minute and 55 seconds, all we need to do is click on it and specify the start position as 1 minute and 55 seconds and hit OK, and it gets placed there. And lastly, we have the grid mode. In grid mode, clips and MIDI notes that are moved, trimmed or inserted will snap to the nearest time increment using the currently selected time scale and grid size. Which means, when you move a clip, it will always snap to these grid lines that are in the session. Even the edits you make will follow the grid. So if you trim a clip, it will snap to the grid. The grid mode is used mostly while making precise edits and aligning clips and selections using precise time intervals, like when you wish to select a 4-bar loop, or perhaps you wish to cut 2 bars from your song's interlude, etc. The shortcuts to selecting edit modes are F1 for shuffle, F2 for slip, F3 for spot, and F4 for grid. And these are same on both Windows and Mac OS. So these are the 4 edit modes that we have in Pro Tools. When you're working in music production or post-production, you need a way to measure time. The most commonly used measurement for music is bars and beats, and for post-production, it's time code. These measurements of time are called time scales. And as we saw earlier, Pro Tools allows you to have 2 of them, a main time scale and a sub-time scale. The main time scale is the time format used for transport functions, in your selection fields, and your grid and nudge values. The sub-time scale provides an additional timing reference and can be displayed along with the main time scale in the counters area of your edit window and the transport window. The main time scale can be set to bars and beats, minutes and seconds, time code, feet and frames, or samples. You can set the main time scale in one of the following ways. Click on View, Main Counter, and then select the desired time base there, or select it from the main time scale pop-up menu in the counter in the edit window, or just click on its name in the ruler section of the edit window. Let's set this session's timescale to bars and beats by just clicking on the bars and beats ruler here. You'll notice that the main counters in both the edit window and the transport window now reflect the timescale as bars and beats. To display the sub-timescale in the edit window, select Show Sub-Counter from the bottom of the main timescale pop-up menu, like this. The sub-timescale provides a convenient secondary timing reference, and like the main timescale, it too can be set to bars and beats, minutes and seconds, time code, feet and frames, or samples. So if you change this to minutes and seconds, like this, you now have 2 timing references for your project. Pro Tools provides 2 types of rulers that can be displayed in the edit window: time-based rulers and conductor rulers. To display a ruler, from the View menu, go to Rulers and select the ruler that you wish to show. The Pro Tools time-based rulers include the following: bars and beats, minutes and seconds, time code 2, feet and frames, and samples. The Pro Tools conductor rulers include the following: markers, tempo, meter, key, and chords. You can customize your session to display only the time base and conductor rulers you want to work with. So to remove or hide a ruler, just click on one that is checked and it will get deselected. There's a faster way to hide a ruler too. Another handy feature of the Alt or Option key is the Hide Views function. So if you hold down your Alt or Option key and click on the nameplate of a ruler, you can make Pro Tools instantly hide that ruler from view. So to hide the samples ruler, for example, just hold down your Option or Alt key and then click on the samples ruler's nameplate like this, and it's gone. It can always be brought back from the View menu again. Do make note of the instances that we use the View menu though. It is being used to change what we are viewing within a window. The functions we have used from it, rulers and timescales, are not windows. They are part of the edit window which we are changing. This brings us to the end of this video and the end of chapter 2. We have covered all of the basic Pro Tools operations and functions, identified all of the primary user interface elements of the application, and have also gone over the common tools and modes of operation. Please feel free to reach out to me if there's anything you have not understood or would like for me to explain again. We can use our channel in Teams to discuss any point that you'll wish, so feel free to start a post there that everyone can contribute to and benefit from. This lecture will also be made available for you to watch again over Moodle, so feel free to log in and watch it at your own pace.